Having a strong marriage is more than chance. It's being well-informed and well-equipped to face the challenges that will inevitably come our way. With God's help and with learning all that you can about your spouse's different needs, you too can have a strong marriage. God is on your side and wants your marriage to be strong. If you're planning to get married, you have to hear this program. And if you're already married, stay right where you are so that your marriage may be even stronger. Welcome to Old Man, New Man. Our guest today is Claudio Consuegra, our North American Division Family Ministries Director. And Claudio, you have been holding marriage seminars for how many years?
At least 15. My wife and I have had that privilege of going all over the country in many parts of the world and sharing wonderful things with couples that are excited to be there and others that just can't be there or didn't want to be there. You could see the stretch marks there on the parking lot, but after we finished, many have said, thank you for the information that we've shared with them.
Excellent. Now tell us a little bit about your wife, Pam.
Pam and I have been married for 30 years, in fact, this
30
August.
years. So we're talking about 30 years experience successfully.
Plus 3 years of dating, so we've been together
33.
longer than we were apart, or we were single anyways.
Okay.
And it's a wonderful thing to meet the person that's specially designed by God to have you as your spouse, and she is that person. Mm-hmm. You know, Minor, I'm convinced that being in the ministry is a call. Mm-hmm. Being the pastor's wife, I think it's also a call, and I've been blessed with a wife that has the call to be a pastor's wife for all these years together.
So you make an excellent team.
She makes me part of an excellent team.
She compliments you.
Absolutely. My better half, for by all means.
Excellent. Now you're talking about the fact that marriage is a wonderful thing and it's a blessing from God to have that soulmate, that person that is a blessing to your ministry, to your life. I know, Claudio, that there are a lot of young men and young ladies, beautiful brides that come down the aisle with their hearts filled with dreams and plans for the future. But statistics are showing us that of all those marriages coming down the aisle, there's going to be a lot of broken dreams and a lot of sad hearts. So talk to us about having a strong marriage. What are some ways that we can fortify the marriages?
Well, the best thing to do is to prepare for it before you even get married.
Premarital counseling.
Premarital preparation, absolutely. Okay. And in fact, there are two things that I would like to encourage young people to do. Well, one to do and one to not do in preparation for marriage. Many pastors have been trained in a program called Prepare. Prepare provides the pastor with an evaluation of the couple and then helps that couple with several exercises in things like communication, conflict resolution, sexual fulfillment, parenting, things that I can almost guarantee that couples
they're going to
never talk about.
And they're going to deal with them.
So what I recommend is for couples that are just dating, not that are engaged, dating, that they talk to a pastor or counselor and say, can you please take us through Prepare? That way they will discover if they should even get engaged and be married.
Excellent.
Unfortunately, what some couples do is they come to you, Pastor, we're happy to tell you that we're engaged and we're getting married in a month or 2 months. Would you do the wedding ceremony for us? And you don't have the time to really prepare them properly. Mm-hmm. What if in the process you find something that's troubling in that relationship? Are they willing to cancel the wedding? Chances are they're not, because they've already reserved the reception hall,
invitations
the church.
Are out, plans are on the way.
So I say again, if you're just dating, considering the possibility of getting married, talk to a pastor, counselor, and say, would you prepare us for marriage? And then after going through that process, then get engaged and date for however long later.
Take those steps.
You get married. So that's the first thing to do.
Okay.
The don't do is do not move in together. Do not have sexual relationships. Because what we have seen is that couples that enter into sexual relationships or move in together have an 80% greater chance of getting divorced later if they get married.
Now, so many of them say, well, there's nothing wrong with it. The culture says it's okay. Their friends are doing it. Why is it so damaging to move in together and begin life that way?
Two main reasons. One, a cohabiting relationship is a low commitment relationship. Otherwise, they would get married. The reason they cohabit is to say, well, let's try it and see. If it doesn't work, we'll separate. And that psychological dynamic continues into marriage. So if we're living together and it doesn't work out, we'll separate. Well, now we're married, and if it doesn't work out, we'll divorce. And that affects the commitment that is necessary to live together for as long as we shall live, which is what the marriage vows call for.
Excellent. And God is a God of covenants, and I love the fact that He calls us to enter that covenant for good or for worse, for rich or for poor, till death do us part.
I tell the couples that I marry, when I stand at the church in front of you, I'm not just making a legal contract with you, but I'm presenting you before God in a covenant relationship with Him.
Amen.
As well as between the two of you. When you decide to dissolve that relationship, you're really saying to God, that covenant that I made with you doesn't matter anymore. But for God, those covenants are very serious.
Yes, they are. They certainly are. And one of the things that I appreciate about what you're sharing with us is the fact that when we get our driver's license, for example, we have to study. We have to prepare. We have to learn. We have to understand the rules and the laws and protocol on the road. Well, before we go to college, we have to finish high school. And so premarital counseling is a huge benefit because it prepares us for the bumps in the road that we'll face.
That's right. In fact, Norman Wright, well-known Christian counselor, says the very same thing you said, that most people spend more time getting a driver's or preparing to get a driver's license than they do preparing for a lifetime together.
And so one of the tools you're giving us today is to, if you're not married yet, to have some premarital counseling sessions so that you can get ready.
And for those who are watching the program, they can go to prepare-enrich.com and they can see a list of counselors where in their area. Call them if your own pastor is not trained, and call those pastors and see if they can take him through the Prepare program.
Okay, give us that website again.
Prepare-enrich.com.
Okay, thank you. Now, the wedding is over.
Yes.
The covenant has been sealed. The honeymoon is over.
Yes.
Now they're in this lifelong commitment. Now let's talk a little bit about how to work from that point on. And let's talk a little bit about some of the myths and some of the challenges. Tell us about them.
Let's talk about some basic and simple principles that those who are watching us can apply to their relationship.
Okay.
Willard Hartley, who's a Christian counselor in the Twin Cities area, has a wonderful book called His Needs, Her Needs. And he establishes some principles there that are very easy to apply to any relationship. The first one is what he calls the love bank. And what he says is that all of us have an emotional bank, and every person that we know and meet has an account in that bank. For instance, Minter, you and I met. The moment that we met, you established an account in my bank. I have to say, when we met, your balance was very small. But when you say to me, hey, glad to meet you, or you send me a message and you say, I appreciate what you wrote, or if you heard me preach and you say that was a good message, every time you do one of those things, your account in my bank is going up. When I get home and my wife said, I love that sermon too, or when she says, I like the tie that you're wearing, or thank you for the rose that you brought me the other day. Every time she says something like that to me, her account keeps growing. So the idea is to make sure that your account in your spouse's love bank continues to grow.
Because some of them come to us for counseling and they are overdrawn. They are deep in the red.
Absolutely.
And so how do we deposit these positive accounts or increase the account? You're saying by our words, compliments, positive things.
Actually, we'll get to the deposits in a minute.
Okay.
Let's talk about the other side, which is the withdrawals.
The withdrawals, the negative.
When we don't do nice things for our spouse, when we criticize them, when we do things that hurt their feelings, it's like making a withdrawal. So instead of having that small of a bank account, we have withdrawals. So when I go home and don't bring something nice for my wife, I don't say hi to her when she's wearing a beautiful dress, but I don't compliment her,
ignore it.
I'm making withdrawals. And maybe one day that account will be so far in debt that maybe she'll say, I don't need this. Here's the danger, Minter. I don't make any deposits in my wife's account. But when she goes to work, her supervisor inadvertently, innocently says, hey, I like that dress. He's made a deposit in her account. And if he makes enough deposits in her account and I make enough withdrawals,
he begins to steal her heart.
Absolutely. And I could put her in a position where one day she might just say, this guy meets my needs much better than my husband. Now, this is a simplistic way to say that's how many marriages come to an end. That's not all of them, and that's not as easy or simple as it is. But that's a simple way of picturing what happens when we don't meet each other's emotional needs and somebody else does. So the goal then is for us to eliminate the withdrawals and accentuate the deposits. So what are those kinds of withdrawals in a relationship? Willard Harley mentions 5. I'm just going to mention a couple of them that I feel that are present in a lot of relationships and which affect them more than any others. Angry outbursts. When you yell at your spouse for no reason and with no warning whatsoever, that makes her feel unsafe.
Yes,
makes her feel like
does.
Very worried about anything that she might do, and so that begins to make those withdrawals. So that's one.
Yeah, and I just want to mention before you move to the next one, the fact that our voices, we have a deeper tone of voice. Mm-hmm. And so when we communicate, it comes across often more harsh than we intend to.
That's right.
So we need to be very sensitive to the fact that though we may not mean to sound so authoritative or so bold and angry, it comes across that way.
That's right.
And it's very intimidating and demeaning if we don't learn how to communicate more effectively.
Well, and again, especially if it's an angry outburst.
An outburst.
You know, it's not something that is building up, which shouldn't happen anyways. When you see something building up, the best thing is to put a stop to it.
Right.
But when it happens so suddenly, when as a result of a very small thing, you blow up.
Yeah. Should never happen.
It scares her.
So be careful with that. Okay, so angry outbursts. What's another one?
One that I find interesting is annoying behaviors.
Annoying
behaviors, and it could be so many of them. For instance, some people get upset because the toothpaste tube is not squeezed from the bottom, but just wherever. Sure. And I joke about this in our couples retreats, when people leave hair in the sink. And I say, I never do that. You see, I just don't have that practice. But it is annoying to other people. Or dropping their clothes as they come in through the house. All through the house, they're dropping their clothes instead of picking them up neatly. Those are annoying habits and behaviors that cause pain to the other spouse.
Yes, certainly. Now, let me ask you, though, about those annoying behaviors. When the love bank is low, are the annoying behaviors accentuated? Are they more visible?
Well, what happens is they begin to increase or decrease that balance anyways, and that's the key. It's not just one is worse than the other, is the amount and how the frequency with which they are repeated. Mm-hmm. So the more you do them, the less you're benefiting your relationship.
All right, so just keep the positive and be careful with those annoying behaviors.
Yeah. And one last that I think it's important, especially for ladies, and it's dishonesty. That is, ladies are very troubled when their husband is not honest with them. Dishonesty can damage your relationship probably more than anything if you're keeping secrets from your spouse, if she never knows how you're spending money, if she doesn't know where you're spending your time,
so
if she catches you in lies. Exactly. Adam and Eve, the Bible tells us that they were completely naked. What that means is that they were completely truthful to each other. They didn't have anything to hide from one another. Mm-hmm. Not until sin came in later that they began to question each other and to finger point each other. Mm-hmm. But before then, they were as transparent as God wants us all to be.
Okay, so we need to be cautious of these areas, these red flags that you mentioned.
So we're looking at the love bank. Okay. We want to make sure that we eliminate the withdrawals.
The negative.
All these negative habits that we have that are causing damage, pain, concern to our spouse.
Okay.
And then once we do that, then we begin to implement the others, which are the deposits. Now, Willard Harley says that all of us in general, men and women, have 10 emotional needs that are very special to us. Mm-hmm. But what he found out is that most men have 5 of the 10, and most women have the other 5. And they don't always match.
They're each different.
Absolutely, because God created us to be different.
But the problem is, Claudio, is that if I have a need, we often think that the other person's needs are identical to ours. And so I begin to value my wife or feel loved and love her the way I feel I need love. And it causes all sorts of problems.
That's very true and very important. I'm glad that you're that perceptive, because we tend to meet our spouse's needs thinking that they are the same as ours. Mm-hmm. And what we do is to leave them with their needs unmet. So one of the first things we need to do is to find out what our personal needs are and maybe exchange that information with the other. Not in a way of saying, here are my needs, meet them, but rather, where are your needs? I would love to meet them.
And I want to encourage those that are hearing and viewing this program that when you meet her needs, she will automatically reciprocate and meet your needs.
Absolutely.
And it creates a blessed circle of wonderful things.
Harley says that in general, again, we're talking in general terms, some people will look at these and will say, well, that's not what mine are, and that's perfectly all right. You're not weird, strange, or unusual.
It's the majority.
But in general, most men have 5 emotional needs. And my wife likes to present this section in our marriage seminars and ask this question. Okay, guys, what is, actually she asked of the ladies, what is your husband's most important emotional need? Almost 100% of the time, people will say sexual fulfillment. Now, we're talking about emotional needs, not just physical needs, but emotional needs. Sexuality is very important for men. Mm-hmm. It's very important, and that's the way that God created us to be that way. I don't think it was by accident or a mistake. When it comes to women, the number one emotional need for women, again, we ask that question, and they will say affection.
Affection.
Now, it's interesting because they're very closely related.
But they're quite different.
They are very different. So that when my wife wants me to put my arm around her, affection, I might be thinking, hey, she wants to have some intimacy. But she just wants to be cuddled. She wants to be loved. She wants to be close to me. Mm-hmm. At the same time, again, when my wife holds my hand, wanting to say, hey, hold me and cuddle me, I'm thinking, oh, my wife is interested in that.
She's ready, but she's not.
And so when she says, no, I just want to be cuddled and loved, then I get frustrated. Well, wait a minute, you're sending me the wrong message. No, she's not. So what I say to couples is this. Guys, make sure you take time to hold your wife's hand, to hug her, to be with her what she needs to be without thinking that that's going to take you to bed. Exactly. And to the ladies, I say the same thing. Make sure that you don't send the wrong message to your husband by doing all those things and then saying, that's all I want, go take a cold shower. But rather, do for each other what each other needs. Mm-hmm. Maybe one night, just hold your wife.
Excellent.
And the next night, ladies, make sure that you provide for your husband the sexual fulfillment that he needs.
Excellent. And what you're sharing with us are biblical principles. In 1 Corinthians 7, it says, let the husband render to his wife the affection due her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. And the wife, and then it talks about her body and such. And so the affection is there for her. The sexual fulfillment is there for him. So that's number one. Totally different.
Absolutely. And understanding that difference can mean a whole world to that relationship. In fact, although the experts have said that money tends to be the number one problem that most couples face, mm-hmm. you would see that most couples will also report sexual incompatibility as one of their problems. I think the problem is communication, actually. If we help couples have good communication, then they can talk about money and sexuality and the other things. So we do actually need to improve in our communication styles, which actually is number one, and rather number two, for women.
Let's talk about number two then.
Conversation.
Conversation.
Women need to have that conversation, that communication with their husbands. And when I say conversation, I tell my couples, is not a word. Mumbling something is not a word.
Between commercials. It's not conversation.
And if there is no eye contact, it's not really conversation. Mm-hmm. So that we need to learn more about how to communicate properly. And there are two things that communication involves. One is assertiveness. Mm-hmm. And assertiveness is basically just your ability to express what you wish, what you want, what you think, mm-hmm. what you feel in a very clear, simple way. Mm-hmm. But then there's got to be feedback, so we call that active listening, so that when my wife says something to me, if I'm really paying attention, I want to be able to communicate that back to her to make sure that I heard what she said correctly.
So you repeat back what you heard from her.
Right.
Now, one of the problems, Claudio, that I see among couples in my counseling is that I find that sometimes the wife just wants to communicate, and it's just unloading her thoughts, her day, her activities, and the man wants to fix what he's hearing.
Yes.
So she'll talk about the snow outside.
Yes.
And he'll think, it's time for me to go shovel the sidewalk.
Right.
She's not talking about shoveling the sidewalk. And so one of the things we've done in my marriage, Evelyn and I, is that I'll ask her, I'll say, honey, do you just want to talk? Or do you want me to fix
Very good.
The problem?
Very good.
And she'll tell me at the very beginning, I want to just talk. And so I listen, and I don't try to fix the situation. Right. And it's been a big help for us in our communication.
You're absolutely correct in that we do, as men, tend to be fixers. And when our wife tells us something, we think that what they're asking is for our advice, mm-hmm. or that we think that they want us to fix whatever they're talking about. My wife is the same thing. Mm-hmm. As a teacher, she would come home and tell me that she had a problem with a kid, and I would say, well, why didn't you tell him to do this? And then she wouldn't tell me anymore.
Because she just wants to talk.
So I asked her the very same question. Are you telling me this because you're asking for my advice or my help? And she would say, no, I just want to tell you what my day was like. Great, listen. Yeah. So that's one wonderful tool to use as men.
Excellent.
Don't fix your wives unless they ask you to fix them.
So that's important, ladies, to tell us when you want us to actually fix it. If you really want us to hang the picture, then just let us know that you want us to hang it.
At oldmannewman.com, you can watch this program and many others that will help you along life's journey. There, you will also find the contact information of our guests, along with resources that will further equip you. The Bible tells us in 2 Corinthians 5:17 that if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has gone and the new has come. Ladies, when the men we love are strong and happy, we too are happier. We are here to equip the men with proven biblical information for success in their Christian adventure. Send us an email with any questions or comments you may have. Pastor Minner and I would love to hear from you. Old Man, New Man, dedicated to equipping God's men for this life and beyond.
We tell our couples, there are no secrets between my wife and I. She knows exactly where I'm going to be 24 hours of the day. Mm-hmm. We share that with each other. And now we're working together now. In fact, we travel to the office together. We travel many places a lot of the time. When I was a pastor in the church, I would tell her first thing in the morning, these are the things that I'm going to be doing. Not because I need to render an account to her. She wasn't even asking me for that. But I wanted her to know that this morning I will be here. This afternoon I'm going to see so-and-so. Tonight I have a meeting such and such a place. And she knew when to call me, where not to call me, and where she could find me. And without having to wonder, where is he now? And the same thing with her.
Now, one of the things I want to encourage the men also is, as you're talking about that, honesty and openness, a lot of times we believe that just grunting is a form of communication.
That's right.
Grunting works with us as guys.
That's right.
But we need to make an extra effort. We need to purposefully step up our game, and communicate the best we can. And ladies, I just want the ladies to know, sometimes we take a little longer to communicate deeper feelings than the ladies might.
That's right.
So be patient with us as we try to come across with what we're feeling, because it doesn't come as natural as to the lady.
We men have a a limited vocabulary when it comes to our emotions. Not that we don't feel them.
We feel them deeply.
We don't always know how to express them.
So be patient with us as we seek to be more honest and transparent. But you're encouraging us to make the effort and to be more honest, open, transparent.
And in fact, that's a very good exercise for men to learn the vocabulary. Mm-hmm. Learn the difference between fear and concern or anger so that you don't confuse those and maybe misapply them or misuse them. Mm-hmm. Here's another one of those emotional needs for men that I think is so crucial. Recreational companionship.
Very important.
You know, it's interesting as we're dating. We want to go to the football game, and we ask our girlfriend, and she says, oh, yeah, and we're so happy to have her next to us. Mm-hmm. And we want to go to the car race. Oh, yeah, she's thrilled to be there. And then we're married, and we say, let's go to the football game. No, you can go ahead and go.
Oh,
and we feel that emptiness, like, what happened? You changed.
Recreational companionship, so important.
The thing is not that the girl, when they were dating, loved football. Or loved the races.
Loved to be with him.
She loved to be with him, and he loved to be with her. So what we recommend is that you still find things that you enjoy doing in common. You know, several years ago, my wife and I did a questionnaire on activities separately, on activities that we enjoyed, and one of them was snorkeling. I like snorkeling. I didn't know that she liked snorkeling. But when we compared the list, we found out that we both did. So then we went on a trip to Florida.
Excellent.
And did some snorkeling and had a blast.
Excellent.
So find things that you can enjoy.
Work together, recreational companionship.
Absolutely.
So what are the last few points and differences between his and her needs?
Women need financial security.
Financial security.
Doesn't mean that they need a huge house. They just need to make sure someone is not going to go tell them to leave the house because the payments have not been made. Doesn't mean that she has to have the latest Cadillac or whatever expensive car, but he needs something reliable to transport them.
And what's his next need?
Well, one of the other important needs for men is domestic support.
Her help at home.
Yes, but here's the key. Doesn't mean that he expects her to clean the house and take care of the kids all by herself, and he has no intervention in that. In fact, if he wants to have his number one need met, remember which one that was?
Yes, certainly. Sexual fulfillment.
There you go. If he wants that, maybe he can take care of the kids and help clean the house so she's not so tired at night.
She has a little bit of energy.
She can spend some more time with
Excellent.
him. Another one that's important to him, it's admiration.
Spouse admiration.
Oh, man. When you nail that little nail to the wall to put a picture, and she says, man, you did a good job. It's a simple thing. When you mow the lawn and she says it looks good,
yes, very important.
Helps you.
Claudio, thank you for sharing his needs and her needs with us and helping us to have stronger marriages, because that's the will of the Lord for each one of us, is to have a strong home. Thank you for joining us on Old Man, New Man. We'll see you next time.